Okay, good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. It's my second time speaking for Chazak, and I've spoken here many times for that very, very holy organization of Emet. And I think I'm having Emet in my house this week, close to 100 students. So, are you coming, Rabbi? Couldn't miss it, right? So we're very excited. This speech is sponsored by both Chazak and Emet. Thank you. and I like to say it's also sponsored by Shabbat.com because everything's sponsored by Shabbos. That's why we say L'chadodi ki makar habracha, and we want bracha. And Shabbat.com is a website that I'm affiliated with that has 6,000 people a week being invited in 111 countries. And if you're not part of it, it's easy to be part. It's free, so please join. So, usually, and one more thing, we're going to give this talk for Refuah Shleima, Ili Nishmas, Yechiel Yisrael, Ben Paula Harari. So, usually when we give a talk before a Yom Tov, so we speak about the Yom Tov. So, a talk before Tisha B'Av is a Tisha B'Av talk. It's a sad talk. A talk before Yom Kippur is a talk to do Teshuvah. Every talk has its motive and motif. Every talk. Now, when one speaks during Sefirat HaOmer, so one has three options what to focus on. Really 4 options. Option number 1 is you could focus on Shavuos. The rabbi can get up and speak about Shavuos. Option number 2 is to speak about Lag BaOmer. Right? Lag BaOmer is coming up before Shavuos. It's not yet Lag BaOmer. So rather than jump and tell you something now, and of course tonight, those watching the video wouldn't know this. I'll tell you, tonight is the 20th day of the Omer, which gives us a full month until the next, until Shavuos. So Lag BaOmer is only in 13 days, so perhaps that makes more sense. But there are 2 other things that we can speak about, and that is Sefirat HaOmer. 2 points to Sefirat HaOmer. Meaning, rather than jump to Shavuos, rather than jump to Lag BaOmer, let's simply discuss what does it mean to dwell in the house of Sefira. And whether you're counting, whether you forgot a night, whether you're saying it with a bracha or whether not, we are in the midst, we are swimming in Sefira right now. And Sefira, usually we're pulled in 2 different directions when we discuss Sefira. Direction number 1 is we speak about what happened to the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. So many thousands were nifter. Sinas kinam. They didn't appreciate shleinagu kavod zelazeh. They didn't treat each other with dignity. And that would be a great topic for a speech tonight, right? Everyone treat each other with gewaldige dignity. And then that would be the talk. But there is another option. It's option number 4. The 4th option is to speak about getting ourselves inspired for Kabbalah Satorah. Sefira, the reason that we count is because we long. We long for Kabbalah Satorah. We're excited that the Torah has been given. The Torah has changed the world. And you and I, we're excited about that. And even when sometimes mitzvahs and Yom Tovim can seem a little bit like a burden, even at times where you think, oh no, Pesach cleaning, ay, I have to worry about that, or ay, slichas are beginning, see, I'm an Ashkenazi, we only begin a week before Rosh Hashanah, but it's Friday, we're doing the month before the whole Chodesh Elul. So we stop and think about, ay, it's not easy necessarily to prepare, but at the end of the day, Ashreinu ma tov chalkeinu. We're so lucky that we received the Torah. So how do we inspire ourselves? And let's take a step back. Jewish people in Mitzrayim, many years, saw the 10 Makkahs, they were inspired. The last Makkah, Makkah's Bechoros, they were very inspired. They went running out. 7 days later, the Yam Suf splits. They're very inspired. They're so inspired, they sing Shira. And at that point, there's a wait. Can you do the math? What's the math? How long after Kriyas HaTorah until Matan Torah? How many weeks? 6 weeks, right? The first week was Kriyas Yam Suf, and there were 7 weeks total, which means that there were 6 weeks. That means that the Jewish people had 6 weeks to lose their excitement. Now, did any of you, be honest here, okay? Did any of you ever go to a speech, a shiur, something where the rabbi got up and he wagged his finger and he spoke in a loud tone of voice and you felt so inspired and you felt the tingles and the chills and you came away and you said, I will change, I will be different, I will grow, and then 2 days later, I still plan on changing. And a few days after that, it was a good speech. I don't remember what the rabbi said anymore, but I remember it was good. And then a week later, I don't remember much, but they served sushi. How many of us are going to remember we had sushi tonight? How many are going to remember? Because inspiration is like fine glass. Very hard to make, very easy to shatter. It's one of the reasons that when David HaMelech, when King David started Tehillim, he said the following, Asher ish asher le'hoach ba'atzas Rishayim, u'v'derech hatoim le'amad, u'v'maishav leitzim le'yashav. Don't be around scoffers. Don't be around people who make fun. Don't be around people who are cynical. You know why? Because Chazal tell us, leitzanus achas doichem me'at achachas. Which means that you could go to a talk like tonight. You could go to a talk and maybe I will inspire you tonight. Maybe not, but maybe yeah. And you'll come away on fire. You'll walk out of the door tonight all inspired. And then as you're leaving, someone will comment, did you notice how the rabbi kept doing this or that? Or you notice how his tie? And all of a sudden, all the inspiration dissipates. One joke can take away 100 inspirational talks. If that's so, then inspiration is really hard. So that's why we need that time to be inspired. How many of you at this moment feel inspired? Well, the truth is, I'm glad you raised your hand. You all are inspired because you wouldn't be here. Because even I can think of other things that I could be doing during this time. And I'm sure if I asked you, and you, each one of you could think of at least 5 other things that are important things. They're not trivial. Important things that you could be doing. And yet you decide to come to Bet Gabriel tonight. So on some level, you're inspired enough to want the inspiration. So the first lesson, and by the way, I love that the organization is called Chazak. What does Chazak mean? Strengthen. Ish esrei ehu ya'azaru. A person should help their friend. U'le'achiv, and to his brother. Yoimar Chazak. Be inspired, be strengthened. We give each other Chazak, Chazak, v'nis Chazek. We give each other inspiration. That's why it's called Chazak. So, in Sphira we count. And the reason that we count is the following. Actually, I'll tell you my own children. My own children, about a half a year ago, I had a little family conference. I had them gather around. And I told my own children, by the way, I got these amazingly cheap tickets to Israel. Remember when that happened? I got these cheap tickets to Israel. When else can a fellow like me afford flying everyone out to Israel? And I told them, we are going to be leaving right after Purim. But the thing is, I told them that in the summer. Now, can you imagine? That's a great way to torture a kid. Tell them, in a half a year you're going to Israel. And they used to come in, I can't sleep. I keep thinking of Israel. There you go. Go to sleep. 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, 30 days, 29, 28. We're counting, we're excited. You count when you're excited. The reason that Hashem gives us the mitzvah to count is to shake us up and to say, Chevra, I hope you're excited. And if you're not excited, pretend you're excited. Count. Count as if you're excited. Maybe by counting, it'll remind you that you're supposed to be excited, and maybe that will get you excited. There are many ways to be inspired. I'm going to be doing a lot of reading tonight. You see over here, I brought some reading material. I usually don't do this, but I feel that sometimes rabbis get up, they try to inspire you, and maybe they're good speakers, maybe they're so-so, maybe they just have a lot to say. But at the end of the day, the words are the rabbi's words. What happens when we call each and every one of you up? And I tell you, what inspired you? Why are you here tonight? What's going on in your life? What are the challenges of shidduchim that you're going through? How tough is it to find a job and yet you're still davening to Hashem? You still have faith that you're going to find that job? How nervous are you? How are you going to pay your bills in 2 weeks, in 1 week, that are a week late? How scared are you that your children should stay on the derech? We all have a story. And sometimes rather than the rabbi get up and tell you his story, perhaps there are other stories that should be shared. So I broke up these stories by ideas and ideals. And I want to start with a story that I call Private Ryan. Now, I like to call Private Ryan because his name was Private Ryan. Also, it was a movie. But here's the story. I take a group of students to Israel in the summer and the winter. It's called the Akiva trip. And I take from campuses that don't have rabbis. So I try to inspire them while they're there, and maybe they'll stay, and maybe they'll learn, maybe they'll grow. And I was in Las Vegas at UNLV. That's the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And I was meeting students and interviewing them to take a few students from Las Vegas with me to Israel. The local rabbi says to me, there's a fellow who's on the campus who you may want to take, but you may not. So I said, okay, let me check him out. I made an appointment with him. The first thing I noticed was he was a little bit older than the group that I'm taking. I take 20, 21, 24. He was 28. You know, sometimes it could throw the dynamic off when there's someone who's a little bit older. But the other thing about this fellow was he spoke with a little bit of a slur. Little slow, a little bit of a slur. And I wasn't sure really how smart he was. I didn't know, and our trip is a high-level trip, and there's learning. There's going to be a lot of sharp kids, and I just wasn't sure. He didn't look the part. He wasn't the right age. And then I spoke to him a little longer, and he says, I'll tell you my story. I was in the U.S. Army, and I was in Iraq, and I was riding in a Jeep with some other soldiers, and we rode over a mine that was hidden. One of my friends died. A piece of shrapnel smacked me in my head. I ended up in the hospital for many months, and that's why I speak slowly. Whoa, he's a war hero. So I thought about it a moment, and I said, what's your name? He said, my name is Ryan. You're private? Okay, Private Ryan, you're on. You're one of our group. And Private Ryan came on the trip. And we tried, like we do with the entire trip, to get people inspired. We tried to get them perhaps even to stay in yeshiva, to learn in seminary. We try our best. But the light was just not going on in Private Ryan's eyes. I didn't see it. He was polite. He was a good guy. But I didn't see inspiration. I just didn't see it. And the trip was coming to a close without any inspiration. And I thought to myself, I guess it was a little bit of a waste. It could have been a little bit of a waste to take Private Ryan. Maybe we could have taken somebody else. The day before the last day of the trip, we were scheduled to go to the Chizkiyahu water tunnels. If you've never been to the Chizkiyahu water tunnels, you go in the dark. It's about a half mile long. You're walking through the water. It's a lot of fun. And you've got little flashlights. And it's a fun thing to do. And it's historic. And we tell them the story. But that day it snowed. And it snowed, the biggest snow in Yerushalayim, the heaviest snow in 28 years. This was just now, this winter. And we weren't going anywhere. You see, in Yerushalayim, when it snows, everything closes down. So, what do you do with this group? So we tried our best. We took Yom Tov Glazer. He's a famous rabbi. He sings. He's a surfing rabbi. Nice guy. We had him come. He played guitar for our group. And the group was singing along, except for Private Ryan. Private Ryan was standing and staring out the window. He was staring out the window for hours. And when he finished, there was this glow about Private Ryan's face. I didn't understand it. So he wrote it for me. He explained it to me. And that will be the first thing that I'll read to you this evening. He writes the following in poetic form. Stoic, serious Private Ryan writes, "When the cold wind blows, the clouds bring the Jerusalem snow. You know it's a miracle that God made it snow. That's how it goes for us believers who roll. Seeing this miracle brought us to a new spiritual plateau. From this we grow. From this God's will flow. From this we give thanks to God we owe. From this our souls glow. From this we stand in awe of God and go." Whoa. Every day us Jews survive. To God we give thanks we're still alive. We move forward, we don't stand by. We give our thanks all the time. Our prayers to the heavens will fly. There's no need to wonder why that our prayers are answered from the sky, where heaven is so close and so high, where snow in Jerusalem is a sign. Jerusalem's snow is a miracle. Nothing hysterical, nothing whimsical. The flowing snow is almost musical and very beautiful. Jerusalem kids build snowmen and igloos despite the dark times they've been through. They thrive in school. Their creativity is cool. They're cheerful, not blue. It's true that us Jews are few, but we survive. That is what we do. The Jerusalem snow is a light that shines bright. Where you let loose if you're uptight. The Jerusalem snow started in the night. Oh, what a sight. It's pure and white. It came from the heaven's height. It's a miracle, like Israel's might. With the Jerusalem snow, you appreciate smaller things. Life may hurt like a bee's sting, or you may feel what pain brings, but doing mitzvahs will make you feel like a queen or a king. It will improve your self-esteem. Your soul will be clean. Your life will be redeemed. Remember, God sees all things. You can live your life and have your dream and be on God's team. Jerusalem snow creates first-rate miracles that happen to this date. You can relate and simply not just accept a bad fate. It is never too late. Doing teshuvah, your bad deeds you can't obliterate. Jerusalem's snow makes you appreciate Israel being the Jewish state. Jerusalem's snow is a sign of peace and not hate. It will stay and never escape, where every piece of snow has a unique shape and is as holy as an Israeli grape. I don't know what that means. But I'm asking, it can't be into them, okay? I don't know how to translate. I don't think anyone expected that out of this quiet soldier. A poem about Jerusalem's snow. The idea that looking outside and feeling the magic of the snow could affect somebody so deeply. But I do want to tell you that Jerusalem snow inspired him in a way that none of the shiurim did, that none of the excursions did, none of the experiences did, just looking outside. He began putting on tefillin, and I'm happy to say that May 12th, he will be coming back to yeshiva. Nothing to do with me. No, sorry. I take no credit. But who knew to take the credit? Who knew it would be the snow falling in Yerushalayim? He saw it as a sign. We see something very unique. Sometimes people say, Rabbi, there was a sign. I had a dream. Or somebody, I was just thinking of something and then something just happened and I'm so inspired. And you think to yourself, oh, that's so silly. That's not a sign. That just happened. But maybe it is a sign for you. Maybe Hashem knew, certainly Hashem knew how you would react towards whatever it is that you view as a sign. Would I have known, would anyone have known that the way to Private Ryan's heart is through snow? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's story number one. Story number two goes as follows. I received an email from Winnipeg. Does anyone know where Winnipeg is? Has anyone ever been to Winnipeg? It's in Canada. Anyone know what Winnipeg is known for? Hockey. It is known for hockey in Winnipeg. It is also known to have the coldest weather on planet Earth. The coldest regular weather where people live is Winnipeg, Canada. And I received a letter from a girl by the name of Mila. And I had it on a paper, and I don't now. I can't find it. So instead, I'm going to read it from my iPad, since I had it here. And she writes the following. She writes, I wish I could have stayed in Israel, but I was faced with a problem. My parents were expecting me home and were getting angry when I said I'm inspired and I would like to stay. I came back to Winnipeg on September the 2nd. It's very difficult for me to be here. What can I say? What a challenge it is to be back, especially with my parents. It's very emotional and irrational with them. They criticize everything. You see, Mila, she came back from Israel and she wanted to start becoming frum. You know what her parents did? She writes, they criticize everything. They make jokes about it. They make me feel bad. They try to make it hard. It's really stressful to be around them. And I start to question everything and begin to feel weak. They refuse to support me and anything that's related to my Judaism. To give you an idea, I'm totally dependent on them. They pay for my university, my food, everything else. But for example, when I'm in the store and I look at skirts, my mom will say, let's go, you're not buying any skirts. We are supporting you. You can't survive without us. right? You won't be able to do anything on your own. Basically, I know they mean well, and they're scared for me to become religious. They try especially hard to provoke me, especially on Friday when I'm getting ready for Shabbos. Is there any advice how to make sure they don't provoke me? How to make Shabbos more pleasant? She says, thank God I've been able to keep kosher. I got my own stuff. I even toiveled it. I found a mikveh in Winnipeg. That's a little bit about how it's going. And then she writes at the end, she writes, Hanukkah is going to be quite sad here in Winnipeg. There are a few girls and I managed to organize a little get-together. I think it's a record for Winnipeg. 5 girls somewhat interested in Judaism in the same room. But other than that, I'm on my own. Before I end, I want to wish you a happy Hanukkah. Be well, Mila. I picture in my mind a girl in the furthest reaches of Judaism, all the way in the coldest place in Winnipeg, Canada. And there's no one there. There used to be a community in Winnipeg years ago. Now, Winnipeg is an icy desert. There are people who live there, but Judaism doesn't exist. So I felt so bad. So I gave her a phone call. I said, hi Mila, thank you for reaching out to me. I never met her before. Someone gave her my name. So I said to her, listen Mila, I'll make you a deal. Here's my deal. If you find 15 girls who are willing to come to a Hanukkah party, I will fly out to Winnipeg and run your Hanukkah party. I didn't think she could do it. 15 girls, if 5 was a record, where is she going to find 15 girls from? Later on that evening, I got the following email. Hi Rabbi. After our conversation, actually it was the next night, after our conversation last night, although I was still shocked at your offer, I was very excited. Having you come here would be the exact thing we need to lift our spirits up for a while. Although at first I was a little doubtful if I could pull together the girls for this, especially because it's exam time, I got into full force last night. I started emailing people, Facebooking people, calling people. Right now, I have 9 girls confirmed, including myself. As well, 2 of the girls might invite their mothers to come. We have 8 girls listed as maybe. We will hit 15. So, we will schedule the Hanukkah party, which you will lead, for Tuesday, the 11th, between 7 and 9 p.m. Happy Hanukkah, Mila. I think, oh no, I'm going to tell my wife I'm leaving on Hanukkah to run a Hanukkah party in Winnipeg. I told my wife, she understood. I went online and I realized just how far away Winnipeg is. As it turns out, there is no direct flight from New York to Winnipeg. New York has a direct flight to everywhere but Winnipeg. In order to get to Winnipeg, you have to go through a circuitous route, and the price of getting to Winnipeg is more than a ticket to Israel. But I said I would do it. I can't back out. So I bought a ticket. I arrived, 3rd day of Hanukkah. I come to Winnipeg. I get out of the airport. And as we said, b'chayecha, in your life, you never felt such a cold. It's so cold that when you step on the sidewalk, there's no ice on the sidewalk, but you still hear a crackle. Like, what's cracking? But the sidewalk just crackles. There's a thin layer of ice everywhere. And when you breathe out of your nose, right away you get frost on your upper lip in seconds. I come to a hotel. It was one of these old hotels that was glamorous in the 1920s. Today, it just looked moldy and old, with some nice moldings on the near the ceiling. Old, old, old. And it was also very cold in the hotel. They didn't have adequate heating. So I come and I see this carpet. Imagine this carpet was probably once beautiful. Now it was like gray with like a thick layer of sort of mold and crust and slush from people's shoes. And I'm looking around like, ugh, this is where I'll be the next 24 hours? So I come down, and the very chipper Canadian lady behind the counter says, "Oh, welcome to our hotel. Please check out our pool." You have a pool. So she said, "Yes, very unique pool." So to satisfy myself, I was sure no one was going to be in the pool. And I was correct. I come down, the lights are off, it's like closed, but there was water in the pool. I turn on the light, and it turns out that in front of this pool is a gigantic, and I'm talking about a 20-foot face of a monster with 3 tongues that are slides coming out. And at one time, you climb up the stairs, you go into the face of the monster, and you could slide down one of the 3 slides. And I thought to myself, my kids would be awfully disappointed if I didn't do this. And since I travel everywhere, I always have a bathing suit just in case. So I turn on the light. I'm probably the first guy to use the pool in a year. And here's the rabbi sliding through the monster's face. I was just hoping they didn't have like a video in the ceiling. I wouldn't be able to show face again. The next day, they had someone pick me up to get to the Hanukkah party. And they bring me to this shul. It's an old shul. You know, one of these shuls that had paintings of Kever Rachel that is on the wall, but the paint is already peeling, so you could barely make out that the Kever Rachel, and there, of course, is the Kaisel, and all the paint is peeling. Old. I don't know if they still have a minion, but somehow Mila was able to get this shul for the party. So I come in, and there are these 15 girls from Winnipeg, and they're quietly sitting around the table. There's soda and potato chips. That's it. Soda and potato chips. And they all look at me, and I don't know what to do. I can't teach them a song. They're not going to sing. Tell them a story. Say hi. So I went around. They said their name. I said, okay, let's light the candles. So I lit the candles, and they quietly answered Amen. Then I said, okay, I'm going to sing for you some Hanukkah songs. So I sat there banging on the table singing, and they're all... I was thinking, why am I in Winnipeg? I was like, dreidel. Finally, I tell them a little story, and I see a little bit of life in their eyes. And the party was over, thankfully. And I said, thank you, and that was it. The potato chips were left, and the soda, and I went back to the hotel, getting ready for my flight back. That night, get another email from Mila. And she writes the following. Hi, Rabbi Klatzko. I want to say thank you so much for doing this, for coming to us, coming all the way here. When I started planning this, trying to get people to come, I forgot how much I myself needed it. But thought about the girls who showed up, how much they needed it. I got great feedback from them once you left. But they felt they learned something, like they were inspired. You come to realize that no matter what everyone's situation is, the same challenge is with us ultimately. She writes, truthfully, at first, I didn't think I could do this. She didn't think she'd be able to pull together the people. And even when I thought otherwise, I thought, what difference would it make? I often think, what am I doing here in Winnipeg? What am I doing here? But for the first time, I thought, maybe that's just it. I'm here because there's something I can do for the community. You were saying that I was an inspiration, but the truth is, everyone was inspired by you. that you came out here just for us, that you took time off to come here to this place called Winnipeg, that you were strong enough to brave this cold and this snow. I can't explain how I personally felt that you came here, how great it was. I really needed it. Thank you. Have a safe trip back, Mila. One girl fighting the elements, fighting her family, fighting her community, to be inspired because she had been to Israel and had gotten inspired and wanted to hold on to it. So a little while ago I had a group in my house called Shalshelas. They're a wonderful school and we do Shabbatons. We're doing another one for them in a few weeks. And I told these girls, I took out this letter and I read it to the girls of Shalshelas. And you should know these girls in Shalshelas are all fighting. They're struggling with their parents. They're trying to grow. Their parents don't support their decisions like some of your parents don't support your decisions. I know about that. I know how hard you're working. The elements are against you. And I told that to these girls in Shalshelas. And they were so inspired. And when I finished telling this story, they were so in awe that I told these girls, now I want you to meet someone amazing. Girls, I want you to meet Mila. We had flown Mila down from Winnipeg to join the Shabbaton. And all of a sudden, Mila stands up amongst all these girls, 70, 80 girls. Mila's there. And the girls were so inspired, they lifted Mila onto their shoulders. And Mila became their hero. Sometimes we struggle when we're in Queens. Sometimes we struggle because our parents don't want us to go to Israel. Our parents don't want us to learn. They want us to go to do business, to make money. I always tell my students, nothing will happen if you retire at the age of 66 instead of 65 and you take that 1 year. Except that if you take that 1 year and you're inspired, every Yom Kippur, every Rosh Hashanah, every Sukkot, every Shabbos, every Pesach, every davening, every tefillah will feel different. What a glorious investment. What a smart investment. That was the story of Mila. On our last trip, there was a girl that we found who grew up with nothing. Her name is Maggie. Wonderful person. Nothing. I mean nothing. You should all be grateful. There's a lot of people who were born, they're Sephardi. The Sephardim have been able to hold on to lots of tradition. Even those who grew up not keeping Shabbat, not keeping kosher, no more than many, many, many Jews living in America. Imagine growing up in Oregon. And someone gave us Maggie's name. She found us on a website. And we brought her on the trip. And she was sweet. She was kind. But I don't think she planned on sticking around. And one day we're going hiking. And when we hike, I stand next to different students. I hike next to them. And I said to her, Maggie, what are your plans? Maggie says, I don't know. I work as a nanny. I was a nanny in England. I said, that's wonderful. Do you like being a nanny? She says, well, I make money. You know, it's not what I want to do ultimately. I say, Maggie, why don't you stay? Why don't you stay in Israel? Why don't you learn? Why don't you grow? And slowly but surely that idea grew in her mind. And after our trip she stayed. She went on a program called Jewel. And from there she went to Neve, which is a girls' program. And she just wrote me this letter last week. She wrote the following: with Passover come and gone, this month has been filled with holy festivities, spirituality, and a lot of irreplaceable learning. The experiences I've been privileged to take part in have been incredibly eye-opening and life-changing. The highlight of the Passover was by far the experiences at the Seders. Coming from an entirely non-religious background, I have never experienced a Seder in my life and felt so blessed to spend my first two in Jerusalem with amazing holy families and with bright young women of Neve. I heard many things regarding what to expect my first Seder, but to actually experience it was something I find hard to explain and to express. A holy experience that exceeded my expectations and was a pivotal point for my future growth and learning as a Jewish woman. I can now, and here are the key words, I can now envision my own future family having a Seder one day. And the experience solidifies how important it will be for me to one day raise my children in a Jewish home. Something I was never privileged to experience growing up. The things I'm experiencing and learning each day at Neve continue to open my eyes and touch me in ways I never expected. Experiencing Passover was a dream and something that I will remember always and remain grateful forever for. Thank you for this incredible life-changing opportunity, and I look forward to writing you more in the future regarding my holy time spent here. How many Jews are there out there who never, ever, ever had a chance? How many? The answer is millions. Millions. I had a fellow by my house this week. His name was Zach. We had a group called Rage. Rage came, wonderful group. But we also had some extra people. And one of them was Zach. And the Rage people, this was a level 2 group, and they were all inspired. And each was getting up and speaking about mitzvot and Torah and this and that until Zach gets up. And he said simple words, but words that shook us all up. He said, "This is the first Shabbat of my life." Sits down. Imagine experiencing the first Shabbat in your entire life. Of course, imagine doing it with Rage. It was wonderful. Singing, dancing. He got up and he said, "Rabbi, where can I get more?" So now he's coming to Israel with me. One Shabbat. We all have to do our part. One of the ways to inspire ourselves is to inspire others. I'm going to share with you something that is... You should know, I looked for this particular letter for a long time. I couldn't find it. And some of the other letters I've read before in public, this one I never did. This was a girl who I met at a camp. And she needed money to get to Israel. And I want to read this to you because it remains one of my favorite letters of all time. Sometimes I cry when I read it to myself. Now I'm going to read it to you. She writes, "Rabbi Klatzko, my name is..." I'm going to change her name. My name is Sephora. I'm 17 years old. I want to tell you a little bit about myself before I tell you why I am emailing you. You don't know who I am, although I have spoken with you a few times in Girls Zone when your family joined us for Shabbat. My family moved from Italy when I was 2 years old. I came from a traditional family. On Erev Shabbat, when one of my brothers are trying to read Kiddush, half of my family is sitting on the couch watching the game on TV. The rest are checking the scores underneath the tablecloth. I have 3 older siblings who are married with children and a twin brother. When I was 9, I got a call from a lady describing a Jewish summer camp called Ura. To my disadvantage, I was busy with a modeling agency. I guess her mother wanted her to be a model, running from audition to audition, so I couldn't attend. The following summer, I went to the camp and have been going back every summer since. This summer will, Mir Hashem, be my 8th summer there. Girls Zone changed my life. I felt more love and inspiration than many people do in a lifetime. 4 years ago, my parents decided that they're getting a divorce. I've come to believe that Girl Zone saved me. It saved my life. I watched my twin brother fall victim to a nasty divorce. Still today, he hasn't healed from it. But I had a security system. I had mentors and Rebbitzins who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I had a separate family while my biological family was being torn down the middle. I became Shomer Shabbat Mitzvot around the same time. I currently attend a co-ed yeshiva kiruv school in Queens called Ezra Academy. I'm very different than the people in my class. I'm very different than my family. My best friends don't understand why I can't come out to clubs with them on their birthday, even though I'll still be wearing a skirt. When my family drives to our cousin's house for the Shabbat meal, they drive 2 miles an hour so they can watch me walk on the sidewalk and make sure nothing bad happens to me. Because after all, I won't carry a phone. This past November, I applied to seminary. My mom informed me that if I choose to go, I'll have to come up with the money on my own. She isn't able to put forth any money and therefore sends my twin brother to public school. I'm still trying to come up with money to pay for Ezra because I do not belong in public school. I got accepted to all 3 seminaries I applied to. And in Mir Hashem, I'm going to one of them. She mentions which one. Rabbi, to me, this seminary is the Harvard of seminaries. I never dreamed in a million years that I would make it into a real Beis Yaakov. Little Sephardi me from Great Neck, who a little over 5 years ago took great pride in the color of my tongue ring and the fact that I once got into trouble with the police. I finally can get to go to a school where I won't have to be different. A school that celebrates who I am, accepts where I come from, and inspires me to be great. Do you know how blessed I feel? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I feel like the luckiest person. I feel like the luckiest person in the world, and no one can take that from me. Rabbi, I have a plan for myself. I know a man plans and Hashem laughs, but this time I don't think he's laughing. When I picture myself in 20 years, I don't know what I'm working as, or what I'm living, or where I'm living, or how I'm living. I just see a Shabbat table filled with children of all ages and all types that have come to my table looking for acceptance, love, and inspiration. A home that will celebrate Hashem and Judaism. And I want to have lots of kids. I think it's beautiful. The only sound shattering my windows are going to be the sound of 100 boys singing and dancing with my husband to Shabbat Zmirs, and not the scores blaring from the TV set. I want to build a family that will bring the best out in each other. No degrading, vulgar comments. I'm jealous of what you all have. All my mentors in camp have heard me talk about how much I aspire to be like your family, to do the kind of work you do. It's the only thing I'm passionate for. I will do anything in my power to achieve this dream. I want to give back to other kids who are in need all the things that I received when I needed them. Because if it weren't for people like you and organizations like URA, I don't know where I would be right now. I'm supposed to hand any writing in to my college guidance officer so she can proofread it and make me sound super intelligent. I don't want to do that. This is very private to me, meaning I want it to be. I want you to hear me as I am. This is the real me, not the edited version. I've been trying to put together as much money as I can towards next year. And Baruch Hashem, I'm getting a lot of help. Please, Rabbi Klatzko, I'm begging you if you can help me even a little. It would mean the world to me, especially coming from you. I will appreciate it so much. You will be enabling me to strive for that dream. I'll be one step closer. I need all the help I can get. You'll be enabling. I hope this wasn't too long or too dragged out. I really meant every single word. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the bracha in the world for you and your family. Did you ever see such longing, and do you have such longing? Someone who says, a man plans and God laughs, but this time He's not laughing because He sees I'm serious. I want to have a table full of Kedusha. I don't want to have a table like I grew up with. That's what He's saying. I want to have a family where Shabbat is Shabbat. Kashrut is Kashrut. You want inspiration for Sefira? It doesn't have to be me waving my finger. Listen to Tzipporah. Listen to the longing of a 17-year-old girl from Great Neck. And that should inspire us to strive for more, to demand more out of our lives. It goes on and on, my friends. I'm going to read one more to you. The hour is late. I saved the best for last. They're all great. And there are more. We're not going to do them all tonight. But in the words of people who strive, that's where we find chizuk for ourselves to strive. And when we say tonight, Hayom Esrim Yom, today is 20, it warns us, it reminds us 30 more days, 30 days to accomplish, 30 days to create a Seder in our lives, 30 days to work on Tefillah, 30 days to work on Lashon Hara. There was a person who signed up for my website, Shabbat.com, and she came from a place in Scotland that doesn't have any Jews. And she writes on her profile, her name is Gemma. I've asked her, I've said this in front of her, she's fine with me telling her story. Her name is Gemma, and she writes, my name is Gemma. My mother's Ashkenazi Jew. I've never met another Jew in my life. I've never met another Jew in my life. I yearn to experience Shabbat. If someone will be kind enough to invite me, I will be eternally grateful. So I wrote back, I said, Gemma, I'm so inspired by you. I want to help you. So she writes me this devastating letter. She writes, Dear Benzion, what a wonderful name. That's my first name, that's how I sign. As you can see from my profile, I'm feeling rather lost and detached. My favorite psalm, one which I think you may read at Jewish funerals, is, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I won't fear evil, for you are with me. I lie awake at night, feeling ostracized from my own life and out of place. Have you ever bought a cardboard jigsaw puzzle and one piece doesn't fit into its correct position properly? You have to manipulate the edges and squash it into an ill-fitting shape in order for it to join edges with every other puzzle piece? That's how I feel. I watched an Orthodox Jewish woman's YouTube video on being afraid once, and she said the only way to combat separation is through connectivity and unity. That she doesn't fear being cut off because she is connected to the unity of all things. And if we can remember this, then we'll never be afraid and we'll never be alone. Writes Gemma, I wish I felt connected to God. I want to speak to God anywhere and everywhere with that heightened sense of holiness you feel with every step that you take. I want a life where family and community are central to the inner workings of life, like the cog teeth of a clock. I always wish for a Shabbat on a Friday night sundown and Saturday evening, sharing challah and pockets of stories and small comforts. I want to slip my prayers between the cracks of the Western Wall and feel cleansed and connected. I feel so out of place and further away from Judaism and God than I ever did before. I feel so out of place and I'm jealous of other families that have all these things together. Families that are observant and study Torah and pray and have faith. Blind people can't miss a sight that they have never seen. So how come I miss a life I've never had with people I've never known? I literally can't sleep from being terrified of life and the obstacles I'm faced with. I'm scared of being alone and never finding happiness, never finding God. You'll have to forgive me, she writes, if I said anything off color or out of turn. This is the first time I've ever shared these thoughts with someone, much less a Jewish man. My profile is true to every letter. I can't speak Hebrew. I've never read the Torah, never eaten kosher, never met another Jewish person ever. I guess in a way, I've lived an atheist life. My mother's Ashkenazi parents died when she was quite young with no relatives. She was then adopted and brought up in a loosely Jewish family, never adhering to mitzvot or practicing Jewish life in the home. When she was 23, she married my father, a staunch atheist, and started a new life with only us, her children, as her family. She, along with my other sisters, are happy with their atheist lives and how they are lived. But I am not. Is it normal to want to be closer to God if you've never been interested before? I'm begging you for any advice. I'm too embarrassed to go to synagogue, as I know nothing entailed in the worship. I don't know the songs or the prayers or the blessings. Is it too late for me, Benzion? Someone told me you should always learn to drive a car when you're younger, because the older you get, the harder it is to learn. Is it the same with Judaism? My sincere apology if this email is a burden, but you seem very kind. And I feel I can tell you these things even though we are oceans apart. So I wrote her back. I said, Dear Gemma, I was once again moved by your sincerity and heartfelt words. Let me assure you, you are certainly not too late in discovering your Judaism. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You were born and grew up under circumstances that didn't allow you to learn and experience the beauty and profundity of your heritage. The fact that it's so meaningful to you with so little background is simply a testament to a brilliant spark that rests deep within you, that refuses to be darkened and extinguished. I promise you, Gemma, that I will do all I can to fan that spark, allow it to burst into a warm and cozy flame that will help you see clearly in daytime and sleep peacefully at night. Just don't give up. Then I gave her a few resources, and I finish. Although we are far apart, we will be kindred spirits. You have my word and my devoted encouragement. You are no longer lost. You are found. We Skyped together. I sent Gemma a ticket. She touched the ground of the Holy Land. She stared into the face of some of the Jews. She was so moved and so touched, finding her family amongst the Jewish people after never having met a Jew before. From Jewel, she went to Neve. She was in Neve for 5 months. I ran a trip. She was my madricha. I then invited her to come and join us for Pesach in Muncie. She flew and spent Muncie in my house. And now she's going out with my son. Wow. So I don't know by the time people read this where that's going to go. But that's the story of Gemma, who never met a Jew. I wish you all inspiration. I wish you all love. I hope you leave here inspired, and it shouldn't disappear in 48 hours. Thank you very much.